Well, good afternoon from suburban Jessup. This afternoon's video, we're going to make a rose from sheet metal, 14 gauge sheet metal to be exact. The pattern I use is a 4-leaf pattern. There's the pattern pieces. Now you can get that pattern several places off the internet. You can get it off of Amplifier that I know of. Several of the blacksmith supply houses show the pattern and then they sell the patterns, okay? I got my pattern a long time ago and I think I got it from Amplifier, but I'm not really sure where I got it from. But anyway, back then I cut them out 14 gauge with a torch. Now I use a plasma cutter. Still cut it out by hand, but I use a plasma cutter. It's cleaner and it's quicker. You can cut them out of a lighter gauge sheet metal with 10 snips, and you'll have a lighter gauge rose. The reason I like using the 14 gauge is because I can texture the edges of the petals, and it gives it a more realistic look. And with the lighter gauge, I don't seem to be able to get the texture that I want, so I use the 14 gauge. So if you go to my website, jbartsblacksmith.com, I'll put a PDF of the outline of the pattern that I use on there, and you can download it off my website. But if you don't have a torch, you don't have a way to cut them out, and you don't want to cut them with a chisel, which you can cut them with a chisel. You can also order them from, I know Blacksmith Depot has them. I believe that Centaur Forge has them. A lot of the blacksmith supply houses have the patterns for the roses. Now this isn't anything new, just I want to show something. This is Max Metzger's pattern book for the artist blacksmith. Okay, this was originally wrote in 1897, published in 1897. And if you go back to the back on plate 62, there's the same patterns right there for a 3-leaf rose. Okay, mine are 4, the ones that I use are 4, but here's a 3-leaf rose. And it shows the stem, and it shows the little, well, I don't know what you call it, the little thing underneath the rose. But anyway, that's from 1897. So they've been making sheet metal roses for a long, long time. It's nothing new. It's not a, well, I guess it is a shortcut, but they've been in ironwork for over a century that I know of. Okay. By the way, this is a real good book for all kinds of leaf and flower patterns. And then Plain and Ornamental Forging by Ernest Schwarzkopf has in the back, in the appendix, it has a sheet metal rose and how to assemble it. This was wrote in 1916, published in 1916, then it was revised again in 1930. This is a real good book. It's actually, it was originally a high school textbook is what it is. And it's, like I said, it covers plain and ornamental forging. It has exercises, chain, tools, you name it, how to do ornamental work. This is a real good book, real good reading. I encourage anybody interested in forge work to pick this book up. So, let's get back to this. The first thing I do is I cut them out. Like I said, I use a plasma cutter, but I draw around this with a Sharpie on my sheet metal and I cut them out by hand. Once I cut them out, I knock the dross off the back. with a chisel, because it's a lot easier and quicker to knock it off with a chisel than chewing up grinding discs or belts trying to get that dross is hard stuff. Just knock it off with a chisel. It's quick and easy. Once I get that done, then I take them and I take and I drill a hole in the center, 1/4 inch hole in the center. Okay, center punch it, drill somewhere in the center. You don't have to get real precise, but close to the center. If you get it too far off, it's going to mess up the way your petals lay. So you want to be fairly close to the center. Okay, then once I do that, then I take an old-time welder's chipping hammer. I've got several of these. And I take them, but I take that and I texture the edges. And what I like about the old chipping hammers, with them 90 degrees from each other, you can texture that one, flip it over, texture that one, and then turn it once, texture that one. I'm not constantly turning it, you know, to do it. And if you're doing a lot of them, that saves you time. But I do that to all 4 of the petal patterns, and then the bottom piece, staple over, well, I'm not even going to try. I take that with the hammer, now again, I do that with it red hot out of the forge. I'm just showing you here so we don't have to mess around with going back and forth and all that. You get the idea. So now we've got all 5 of our pieces textured. Now let's talk about our other elements. Okay? My stem is a piece of 1/4 inch rod, and I take a 5/16 nut and I run it down on there to where I've got 3/4 of an inch from the top to the end of the rod to the top of the nut, and then I weld it on the back side. And I just did a video on a jig to make that easier. But that's 3/4 of an inch is what I find works for 14 gauge sheet steel. 3/4 of an inch. Like I said, I weld it on the back side. And once I weld it on the back side, I take it to the belt grinder and I knock the corners off the hex nut, and then I smooth up the back side, and then I take it over to the anvil and I take it and I just beat it up. Okay, now I don't beat up the short part here because we need that to be the diameter that it is, but the back side of it, we beat that up that way it doesn't look like just a round rod. We've textured it, we've put a little bend in it, and now it's got some life to it. Okay, so that's how we do our stem. Let's move these out of the way. We don't need these now. Now, the leaves I forged from 3/8 square stock. We're not going to take the time to forge one. We may get a video up here in the next day or so on how to forge them, but there's plenty of information on the internet and in books on how to forge a leaf. But I forged my leaves from 3/8 square stock. There's one cut loose from the square stock. Here's one still on the square stock. So those are our elements. That's all it takes. We got 5 pieces to actually make the rose. We've got a stem, and we've got 2 leaves. Now, one thing you'll notice on my leaves is I do have a Off-Center Products veining tool that I use to vein leaves when I'm doing a production run. But you can vein them with a chisel. I've veined a lot of them with a chisel, and I still vein a lot of them with chisels, depending on what I'm doing. It's your preference. Okay, but on this one here, we used an Off-Center Products veining tool. So the rest of our tools, as we go, so I've got a small 16-ounce ball peen. We're going to use that to peen this over, to rivet this over, to hold the leaves on. We got a pair of needle nose pliers that all the teeth have been cut off of. Or not cut off of, but all the teeth have been ground off of, if you look at it. That keeps it from leaving marks on the petals as we bend the petals. We've just got an old screwdriver. I've rounded the tip of it, and I use that to pry the petals from time to time. You see where I've rounded the end of that. And it's kind of oversized, but I've got a 1/4-inch monkey tool that I've made from an old Allen wrench. It's a little oversized, but I don't think I ever have to worry about wearing it out. And I use this to drive the petals down onto the stem and make sure they're seated before I start riveting them. So that's all our tools. That's all our pieces we're going to use. So we're going to get started. The first thing we want to do, we want to take our stem, we want to put it down in our vise. I've already got an indentation. This vise is made of a lot of these. I've got an indentation right there, so we're going to put that in there. Now, very important, you have to start with this piece here, with the little throwing star shaped piece. Put it on there. Then you take the biggest petal. Now, one other thing, if you look, on the back side of this petal I've stamped my initials, because that's about the only place I've found where I can put my initials on this. So I've stamped my initials on the back side. Okay? So we put that one on there. And now, like I said, I'm going to take this monkey tool and one at a time I'm going to seat those with a monkey tool. And I don't stagger them, or I do stagger them, I mean. I don't want them to be all the same. So each time I put one on there, I set it. There we go. So now we've got all our petals on there. Now you can do this without you can rivet this down without heating the rivet up. Okay? And it'll work just fine. But even though it's just 1/4 inch, I like to heat it up with a little bit. Let's talk a minute about the torch. I'm going to use an oxyacetylene torch to do this with. I've done a lot of them in a coal fire. I've done a lot of them in a gas forge. You can do it either way. Okay, I'm just going to show you the way that I do it typically in my shop. Okay, you do it the same way. You come up here, you rivet this, and then you start working it and bending everything up. So you do it the same way, except you're doing it in either a coal forge or a gas forge. But I'm going to use an oxyacetylene torch. Okay, I drove that straight down to start with. Now I'm going to take the ball peen in. I'm going to round that up and rivet that over. Now normally I just continue on, but I'm going to show you what we've got so far. That's what we've got. Good and sturdy, good and solid, doesn't vibrate. Now we're going to put it back in. Now what we're going to do next is we start in the center, and we get the screwdriver, we pry it up. I'm going to bend it, cup it, bend it forward, then we'll pick the one across from it. I'm going to pry it up a little bit, I'm going to cup it, I'm going to bring the two together, and I'm going to fold them over so that they cover the rivet. Now I'm not going to get real wild with it, because if that rivet should come loose during all the heating later on, I'll take a ball punch and I'll go in there and I'll drive down and tighten that up. But we're going to bring it all up, curl them all up to start with, okay? Okay, now if you noticed, I started here with the first one, I moved over here to the second one, and I brought it up and I worked it up a little higher with the screwdriver to get it up higher, and then I took the little needle nose and I capped it, brought it forward, and then I squeezed it in, and now we've got our flower started. So we're going to keep going the same way. Now, I don't have any certain order I go in. So we finish the first petal first, the small petal, before we move on to the next one. Squeeze that on there just like that. Now we're going to go to the one over here and do the same thing. slowly bend them in with the screwdriver. Okay, so that's our first petal. There's our first petal done. Now we're not going to film doing the whole thing, we're going to skip, but I'll show you at least one petal from each layer as we go. But it's all the same, you just pry them up, you dip them, and you shake them. Now on this second one, I try to find one when I start that's right across from where there's an opening. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's an opening right there. So we're going to start with that one. Okay, so that's our second petal. Right there. That's our second petal. All rolled up and ready to go. So now we're going to move on to our third petal. And one thing you want to remember, that thing's hot. You want to keep your arms and your fingers off of it. Now once again, I'm going to take a spot right here where it's open. Now there's no use getting in a hurry, there's really not. If you get in a hurry, that's where you're going to get burnt. So it's real easy for that screwdriver to come off there and run your arm up against it. I've done it several times. It's no fun. So there's our third set of petals. There it is. Coming along quite nicely. There it is from the side. So we've got one row of petals left. There's no use getting in a hurry. All a hurry's going to do is get the burn. So now, show you what we got. Knock all the scale off there so we don't get scale on us. And there we have the rolled up rose. Now these I don't do until the very last, okay? The pointy pieces here on this whatever, scepula or whatever it's called, we're going to do those at the very last. So now, we're going to come back, we're going to take our torch, we're going to take our needle nose and we're going to start rolling those back and opening them back up. Now let's talk a little bit about rolling back. You can roll them all the way out, clear to the inside, or you can roll a little bit. It's just a matter of personal taste. As you do a few more, you'll realize what you like and how you want to do it. We'll start with the one I just rolled up. And start bending it over. Just like that. Okay, so I'm stopping more often than I will. Actually, I don't stop at all when I'm actually making for this video. I'm stopping so I can show you where this is after the first outside set of petals. It's done. That's what we've got. Starting to look like a rose, isn't it? Start with an outside petal. So we're eating about the top half of it. And you bend it over. If you have trouble getting a hold of it, don't worry about it. Heat it up again. Okay, there's our second set of petals from the outside. Coming along nicely, isn't it? Now, that completes our third set from the outside. Now you keep seeing me knock that scale off. There's a reason. That scale's hot. That scale burns. So anytime you move it around, take the time to smack the stem up against the table there or the vise and get that scale off. Isn't that nice? What we've got left now is we've got the inside, and what I do on the inside, the very last row, there's 5 petals there. I take the 3 outermost petals and I just bend them a little bit. And those 2 very inside petals that are covering up that rivet, I don't do anything with them. But that's just my preference. Okay. Like I said, I keep stopping to show you things. Normally I just go from start to finish. I don't stop. Let's clean up. There's the very inside. You can see the little pouty petals that I'm talking about. And even if you look straight down in there, you can't hardly see the rivet. So there's your rose. Now we still got the sepulchre, or whatever it's called back here, that we have to shape. We're going to do that right now. I'm just going to come over here so you can see it. One of them I just curl. I just curl like that. Okay? We're going to bring him down like that. And we're going to heat that up again. We're going to bring him around like that. Let's do a little bit more, a little bit different. Okay? This one up a little different. There it is. Now we're not loose, so we're not going to mess with it. If that gets loose, what you need to do is just heat that up and open that up just a little bit and then drive down with a ball punch. Before you do this, drive that down with a ball punch and tighten up that rivet. But this one's not too bad, so we don't have to tighten it up. Now the next step is we have to put our leaves on. Now, on these, you can jump weld them on there, forge weld them on there, jump weld them, or you can oxyacetylene weld them, or you can MIG weld them, however you want to do it. Me, on a production run, I just go ahead and I MIG them on there. So that's what I'm going to do real quick, is I'm going to MIG them on there. Now all I do is I come up here. Oh, it's probably 2 inches from the stem, or from the hip. I tack weld the first one on there, and then I get it in a position agreeable with me. And at about the same place I tack weld the second one. Now after you've done a couple of them, you get pretty good at making them blend in. The better you can make them blend in, the less grinding you're going to have to do. There we are. Now if you look, what I'm talking about when I'm talking about blending is carrying down on into here and making it even where it comes down in, right in there. That's what I'm talking about. Clean that up real quick with a flop wheel. So now what we want to do, I'm going to put a glove back on. Now we're going to pick that up, we're going to face that towards the camera. And I'm going to show you how I adjust this, how I shape this. Okay? I'm going to leave probably about 2 inches in the vise. First thing I want to do, so I'm going to heat that stem right below that hip. You can see it right there, right below that hip. Get that good and hot. And I just lean that forward. About a 45, maybe not quite. Now I want to take my lady, I just gave my little one. Now there it is. Now, we're going to take that, we're going to clamp it real good in the vise, and I do mean real good. Now let's talk about wire wheel safety, okay? One thing you won't find in my shop, you won't find a bench grinder. I've had too many things come out of a bench grinder and fly across the shop. I don't like bench grinders. I either use a belt grinder or I use a 4.5 inch grinder with the piece locked into the vise. Okay? Same way with a wire wheel. I use a knotted wire wheel because not as many of the wires come out of it. Because when you use wire wheel, you're going to get wires flying at you. Okay? Make sure you wear safety glasses. Make sure you do. Wrap around ones. Make sure you wear safety glasses. When you go at this, go at it slowly. Don't go at it like you're killing snakes. Don't push into it. Go at it lightly. Now if you noticed, I didn't go at it real heavy on the back side because it gives it a better contrast anyway. But now we've got it nice and shiny on the front. Got our leaves shiny. Got all the scale off of it. Now what we're going to do now, we're going to take a brass brush to that. And we're going to give it a yellowish gold color, a brass color. Now you can use a hand wire brush. They work just fine, okay? They work great. But when you're doing 10, 15, 25, 50 of these, it makes sense to buy you brass brushes to fit your drill. Because that way you can take the drill to it. It goes on there better in my opinion. It's a better finish and it's quicker, okay? So if you're going to do quite a bit of brass brushing, order them from McMaster Carr or order them from Granger. A lot of places you can order. Just when you order, make sure they are actual brass brushes, not brass coated brushes. Because if they're brass coated, the brass coating is going to come off and you're going to have a steel brush that's going to take all your brass coating back off. So they have to be brass brushes. So we're going to put our safety glasses back on. We're going to take our torch one more time. We're going to heat this up till it just starts turning bluish. Keep the torch moving. Okay, we're getting up there. Now we're going to heat up the leaves while we're at it. As I go ahead and I brush the leaves just to give it a little more color, a little more contrast. And let's hit this one more time. Now, see, we're just going to take this wire brush same thing, you don't want to lean into it, you just want to softly rub it. And there it is. Now we let that cool, and we're going to put a couple coats of clear coat on it. But that's our rose. Now if you look, once you get that cleaned up, you can really see that texture that we put on there. It's very important to put that texture on there, that way it just doesn't look like a flat piece of metal. Put that take the time to put that texture. It doesn't take 5 minutes. So there's our rose. Like I said, now we're going to let it cool, and we're going to hit it with a coat of clear coat. And the rose you'll see at the start of the video, that you saw at the start of the video, will be the finished rose. So I hope you learned a lot from this video. I hope you got some good ideas. Like I said, they've been making these things for over a century. Like I said, I've got Max Metzger's book here with the pattern from 1897. So if you like the video and you got some use out of it, I appreciate if you do me a favor and like it and share it with your friends. That makes us like to make more of these videos. And we'll see you the next time here at Suburban Jessup. And until then, be safe and bye.